Good afternoon and welcome to our press room and welcome Executive Vice President Virkkunen and Commissioner McGrath to join us here. Executive Vice President Virkkunen will give us the college readout and will then be followed with the press conference on the European Democracy Shield and the communication on the EU strategy for civil society, along with Commissioner McGrath. Executive Vice President.
Thank you very much. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to this readout of our college meeting. This morning, the Commission adopted a joint communication on the European Democracy Shield and a communication on the EU strategy for civil society. Commissioner McGrath and I will present this to you in a minute. But we also adopted a communication on a culture compass for Europe and a joint declaration titled Europe for Culture, Culture for Europe. And Executive Vice President Minzato and Commissioner Mikalev will present this here in the press room following our press conference. Finally, let me outline 3 nominations we approved today also. We decided to appoint Annika Eriksgaard to the function of Deputy Director General at DG for Economic and Financial Affairs. And we also appointed Maria Cristina Russo to the position of Deputy Director General within the DG Research and Innovation. And the date of effect of both appointments will be determined at a later stage. And also, finally, we decided to transfer, in the interest of the service, Lorena Boax Alonso to the position of Deputy Director General in the DG Defence, Industry and Space. She is currently serving as the Deputy Director General at the DG for Health and Food Safety. And the date of effect of this transfer is the 1st of January 26. With those points covered, let me now move to the main topic of this press conference, our democracy proposals. As we know, we are living through very fast-moving geopolitical shifts and technological transformation. And we can clearly see that our democracy is under pressure and under attack as well. Soon it will be 4 years since Russia launched its full-scale war of aggression against Ukraine, and even longer since it began targeting the European Union through hybrid attacks, information manipulation and interference. To face these threats, we need to stand up. We have to bolster our trust in democracy and our action to protect it. At the core of the Democracy Shield is reinforcing public trust in democracy and democratic institutions. The European Democracy Shield rests on 3 pillars. First, safeguarding our information space. Second, strengthening democratic institutions. And third, boosting our societal resilience. When it comes to protecting the integrity of information online, we already have a very solid and comprehensive framework with the Digital Services Act and with the AI Act. We will build on this to strengthen how we safeguard our information space. So we will prepare a DSA incidents and crisis protocol to ensure a very swift and coordinated response to large-scale and possibly cross-border information operations. And we will work with signatories of the Code of Practice on Disinformation to demonetize disinformation by removing advertising revenues that reward false content. We are also strengthening independent fact-checking capabilities. We will extend the mandate of the European Digital Media Observatory hubs to give them the space to develop new independent monitoring capabilities. These hubs will support a pan-European independent network of analysis that is crucial to helping counter threats to information integrity. All these actions will make the European information space more resilient and better protected against attacks that undermine our democratic societies. The second pillar of the European Democracy Shield focuses on ensuring free and fair elections and a free and independent media. Once again, we don't have to start from scratch. The European Media Freedom Act, the first EU law to protect media independence, entered into force in August, and we are now very closely monitoring its implementation across all our member states. At the same time, we are also preparing to review 2 key pieces of legislation next year. First, the Audiovisual Media Services Directive. We will assess now how to strengthen the prominence of media services of general interest. We will also modernise advertising rules and take into account the growing role of new players such as influencers. And second, we will also next year review the directive on copyright in the digital single market to improve its effectiveness, considering new developments like generative AI. And beyond legislation, we are also mobilising EU funding instruments to support these goals. So through the Media Resilience Programme under the current MFF, we want to support especially independent journalism and innovative media projects and cooperation across our borders. And also we are exploring measures to boost private investments in the news media sector. And under next MFF, we have also proposed a new programme, Agora EU programme, with 3.2 billion funding dedicated to 3.2 billion euros dedicated to supporting the media and audiovisual actors. And last but not least, the third pillar of the Shield focuses on strengthening our societal resilience, ensuring that citizens are empowered to fully play their role in democracy. This means investing more in media literacy, especially for young people, so that they can spot reliable sources and navigate information online. Today we also adopted a new EU strategy for civil society, and that will complement the European Democracy Shield. An open and vibrant civic space with a strong and active civil society lies at the heart of our democratic societies. So this strategy will provide coordinated, effective support and protection to our civil society organisations across the EU, helping ensure open, safe and enabling civic space. Our goal is very clear here. Citizens must be able to form and express their opinions freely. Everybody must feel empowered and also represented and heard, know that their voices matter. And before giving the floor to Commissioner McGrath to share more insights on these strategies, I would like to thank him for the very close cooperation and for all his work and commitment on these very key files for our democracy.
Thank you. Commissioner.
Thank you, Paula, and thank you very much, Henna. And good afternoon, everyone. It's great to be here with you all today to share the details of our democracy package. At the outset, can I thank all of our colleagues across the services who contributed to this work over many months. I see a number of them here today. They all put in a huge effort to get us to this point. As many of you will know, before I became a European Commissioner last year, I served as a directly elected public representative in Ireland at a local level and a national level for a total of 25 years. And I learned a few things. One, that democracy is absolutely precious and must be protected at all times. And secondly, that it is fundamentally about people. Democracy is for people, it is about people and with people, and participation of our citizens is essential. Without their trust and their participation, our democracy is going nowhere. We can look to Europe's past, or indeed to Putin's Russia, to be reminded of what life without democracy looks like, and it is not a pretty picture. I've learned that democracy's true essence is found in everyday courage, when judges stand firm as threats become personal, when journalists tell the truth, knowing that it could cost them their careers, when parents and teachers compete for our children's hearts and minds against the most addictive technology that we have ever seen. That is where democracy lives, and that is also where we must defend it. And it is not a destination. There is no end point. It is a journey that we share together, evolving to adapt to the new challenges we face and the incessant technological advancements. And it's not an abstract principle either. Democracy is the beating heart of our European Union, the foundation of our freedom, our security and our very way of life. Yet today that heart is undoubtedly under pressure. Across our continent and beyond, authoritarian regimes are using hybrid tactics attacking infrastructure, exploiting migration, manipulating information, deploying criminal networks and interfering in our electoral processes. And they have been investing heavily in foreign information manipulation and interference, or so-called FIMI, and disinformation. And we know what their aim is, it's clear, to erode citizens' trust, to exploit divisions and influence elections, and ultimately to destabilise and undermine our institutions and our very democracies. At the same time, digital transformation has opened new avenues for expression, but also created new vulnerabilities. Disinformation, algorithmic manipulation, financial pressure on media and AI tools now threaten our democratic way of being. We must act now. Our fundamental rights, free elections, media freedom and a safe civic space are not just values, they are the very first line of defence. And that is why today we are presenting this European democracy package. I'll say a few words about the Democracy Shield, which connects the dots, making sure Europe's tools and actors work together effectively in defence of our shared values. The challenge is clear, and let us make no mistake, the stakes are indeed very high. So we need to take action to strengthen our collective response. When we pool our resources and we act as one, attempts to divide us will not succeed. But Democracy Shield goes further than this. It protects the real targets of foreign interference, our media, our elections, our communities and our EU citizens. And let me flag some key actions under the three priority areas already mentioned by the Executive Vice President. We will create a European Centre for Democratic Resilience, a framework that brings together the capacities of the EU and its Member States to detect, deter and support response to threats, in particular FIMI and disinformation. The Centre will facilitate cooperation and it will provide coordination. All with the aim of increasing our preparedness, allowing us to preempt threats and to fine-tune our responses. We know that we are stronger and more effective when we act together. The work of this new centre will also be vital for the integrity of our information space, together with the other measures that have been mentioned by Henna. In a nutshell, the Democracy Shield is about preserving the information space for people to express themselves freely and exercise their democratic rights across Europe. Secondly, we will invest in the integrity of our electoral processes. At the end of the day, our goal is simple. It's to make sure that EU citizens can exercise their democratic entitlement in free and fair elections and choose whomever they wish to represent them at a local, national and at a European level, and to do so in a manner that is free from interference. Because free and fair elections are indeed the backbone of our democracy. This is about protecting the process itself, so citizens can trust that their vote counts and that citizens have confidence in the outcome of any election, no matter who they have voted for. The organisation and the conduct of elections rests with the Member States, of course, and we fully respect this. But we will reinforce the support that we can give them to address evolving challenges to elections, such as the impact of AI or new means of political campaigning, including financing. And we will work with them to enhance safety in politics against online or offline threats, because when people who are participating in politics feel that they are threatened, then our very democracy itself is threatened, and that can have a chilling effect on the willingness of people to enter public life and be willing to serve in politics. So we will work with them to enhance safety in politics. On all these matters, we will reinforce the work under the European Cooperation Network on Elections, and we will also update the DSA Elections Toolkit. We must learn from the experience of previous elections and ensure that the elections to come are free, fair and reliable. And Moldova's recent elections are a telling example of the importance of preparedness and coordinated response. Thirdly, we will defend and strengthen Europe's media ecosystem. Free and independent media are the oxygen of our democracy. Yet today many are suffocating, economically crowded out by algorithms and disinformation. Generative AI is adding to this challenge, often recycling journalistic content without fair acknowledgement or compensation. And building on the European Media Freedom Act, which includes groundbreaking guardrails for free and plural media, our task now is to make reliable journalism visible, but also viable, through the upcoming review of the Audiovisual Media Services Directive and by ensuring sustainable funding for independent media. And we will continue our actions to ensure a safe and enabling environment for journalists to exercise their role as our democratic watchdogs. Finally, let me point to the measures aimed to deepen citizens' engagement. People don't want democracy only on election day. They want to have their voice heard every day. The Democracy Shield will support science as a basis for policy making, which is conducive to driving people's trust in decision makers. And we will support local and, critically, youth participation, because this is where democracy becomes real, in communities, schools, associations and sports clubs throughout the European Union. And let me be clear also, our candidate and potential candidate countries will not stand on the sidelines. They will be important partners in the actions that we take. The Shield is not just about safeguarding our values within our borders, it's about projecting them beyond. Because democracy does not thrive in isolation, it grows stronger, safer and more resilient when surrounded by other democracies too. We have today the first ever EU strategy for civil society, which acknowledges the important role played by people who keep democracy alive from the ground up. Civil society organisations should be able to speak freely, operate safely and access the support that they need to thrive. Because when civic space shrinks, we know that our democracy is weakened. This strategy is built on three simple principles: engage, protect and support. On engagement, too often dialogue between institutions and civil society depends on goodwill rather than structure. Let's talk with civil society, not about them. We will build a new European civil society platform next year, a space where civil society organisations can engage directly with the Commission on EU values and rights. Second, protection. Across Europe, civic actors are facing growing pressure from strategic lawsuits, online harassment or bureaucratic barriers. We will establish an online knowledge hub to track threats and to share solutions. And finally, support. Funding is the backbone of an independent civil society. This strategy highlights available EU funds, and we will build stronger links with philanthropic partners and pro bono legal networks to help organisations to face political or legal harassment to stay on their feet. Defending democracy, ladies and gentlemen, is a long game, because the pressures on it are lasting, from war to technological disruption and social fragmentation. Disinformation, manipulation and external interference are not going to go away. That is the reality. This package is our long-term framework to update, to strengthen, to coordinate Europe's efforts to protect our democracy, our societies and our very way of life. The investments and actions we take now will determine the health of our democracies and the stability of our societies for the next generation of European citizens. So that work starts today. And over the months ahead, we will take this message across Europe to journalists, to citizens, to civic leaders, to remind everyone that as Europeans, we have the strongest pitch. Nowhere else can freedom and opportunity be lived this fully. Strong democracies are not only a moral imperative, we know they are essential to our physical and economic security, social cohesion and our long-term stability. Thank you.
Thank you very much to both. So we can start with your questions on the topic, and then we'll see at the very end if we still have time to answer some of the topic questions within the remit of both our members of the college here today. Please.
Thank you. It's on deepfakes. As we know, in many member states, those videos are a problem in electoral campaigns. We can see it right now in Hungary, for example, that government politicians are releasing fake news videos about the leader of the opposition. And my question is, what can the European Union do in this phenomenon right now?
Yes, Executive Vice President.
Yes, thank you for this question. We know that nowadays, of course, online services, online platforms, they are often one of the most important channels for citizens, really, also to reach the information and also see what kind of ideas different political parties are having, what kind of ideas political leaders are having. And at the same time, we have to make sure also that online platforms are not misused or manipulated during the electoral processes. And that's why, according to our Digital Services Act, our online platforms, they have to all the time mitigate and assess the systematic risks they are posing for our electoral processes. Of course, here it's very important that we have also good cooperation with local authorities and among also different authorities in the member states, because the digital services coordinators, they are playing a very important role also here to make sure that all illegal content is taken down from online platforms. And here it's important that we are also, of course, reinforcing our cooperation with the local authorities to make sure that that kind of disinformation is not spread during the electoral campaigns or also in any day.
Yes, Commissioner McGrath.
Yeah, I think it's really important that that citizens know when they see material on the internet, whether it's real or it's fake. And so if it is an AI-generated deep fake, it either shouldn't be there or it should be clearly labelled as such. And as EVP has said, there are clear obligations to protect electoral integrity under the DSA, and that is then complemented by the AI Act as well, which imposes the duty to mark and enable detection when content has been artificially generated or manipulated, and an obligation of labelling regarding deepfakes and certain other AI-generated publications on public matters. So deepfakes can have a corrosive impact on the integrity of elections. We have to recognise that reality, and that's why the Commission has developed this toolbox over the last number of years. And the coordination between the Commission and then the National Digital Services Coordinators is crucial to respond quickly, because these could emerge within 24 hours in advance of an election. So you have to be able to respond quickly and ensure that the trust citizens have in our processes and in the integrity of the election is indeed underpinned by our response. So it needs to be swift and it needs to be decisive, so that the public have all of the information that they need about what is real or what is generated by AI, and they can make up their own mind when it comes to how to vote.
Thank you. Yes, please, Julia.
Thanks, Paula. My question is about Moldova. Julia Servan, Journal TV, Republic of Moldova. You mentioned Commissioner candidate countries in your speech. I would like to ask what will be the role exactly of the candidate countries in this European Democracy Shield, more specific Moldova's role in this, and what are the lessons learned from European Union from Moldova's previous elections, and what are your thoughts on this? Thanks.
Yeah, thank you very much for your question. And as you know, the EU services and indeed a number of EU member states have been providing bilateral support to the Moldovan authorities for quite some time, including the External Action Service through the Rapid Alert System. And it was good to see the work out of that in the context of the recent elections, because the level of interference and the nature of the threat that was faced in that election, I believe, was unprecedented. It has become increasingly complex, technologically driven, and so the nature of our response has to evolve and adapt in the same way. And that's why what we are announcing today cannot stand still into the future. This is a strategic framework, and we have to continue to monitor developments and be prepared to adapt and respond, and that is what we will do in the context of the Shield that we are bringing forward here today. But we have also been explicit within the document itself that the new European Democratic Resilience Centre will also be open to associate EU candidate countries and potential candidates, to support them and to foster mutual learning. and also beyond the European neighbourhood, cooperation with like-minded partners, with democratic jurisdictions around the world through the different multilateral fora that we are part of, will also be advanced, because this is a shared challenge in the European Union, in our wider neighbourhood, but also among democracies around the world. But we will continue to work with and partner with the candidate countries, potential candidate countries, because the reality is that as they get closer to EU membership, the intensity of the threat that they face in terms of foreign interference is only going to grow. We know that. That's a reality. And therefore our response has to grow in tandem and match it. And that's the commitment that we are giving, that we will walk the journey with them and support them in every way we can.
Yes.
Thank you. Anupra from Euractiv. Thanks for the press conference. I have two questions. The first is for the EVP regarding the Digital Services Act and this new crisis protocol that has been announced. I just wanted to clarify if there is a large-scale FIMI attack found on platforms, what would it mean that this crisis protocol would do? Would it mean that it could essentially block a platform at one point before an election period? I just wanted some clarification on that. And the second question maybe for Commissioner McGrath on the European Centre. Since the participation is voluntary to this new centre, how would you ensure that member states that don't want to participate and might be the ones that are ripe to disinformation the most would be able to coordinate with the Commission and other member states? Thank you very much.
Yes.
Yes. Thank you. Already under our Digital Service Act, it's like as a last resort, it's also already possible to block access to certain services if they are posing very serious risks for our society. But of course, this is like really a last resort decision. So our first priority is, of course, always to make sure that online platforms, they are all the time assessing and mitigating the risks they are posing, and also that they are complying with all our rules. So now, often before the electoral processes, we have had the practice that with the National Digital Coordinator, we have organized a roundtable together with online platforms in this specific country, and we have been looking what kind of risks there is in this country during the electoral processes, and how the online platforms, how they are prepared for those risks. And also, for example, in Moldova, we organized also that kind of platform, or that kind of roundtable with platforms, even that Moldova is not under our digital service regulation yet. They are implementing similar or this regulation also in Moldova, but we were inviting online platforms to participate in Moldova, and they were taking their part here, because it's very important that they have practices in place, that they are not misused or manipulated. But especially with this incidents and crisis protocol, we want to make sure also that we are able to coordinate in the European level, because often now we are working in each member state, but there can be also that kind of disinformation campaigns, very large scale of information operations that everybody should be aware in the whole European Union, and that's why we see that it's important also to establish that kind of cooperation among different member states and with the online platforms.
Thank you. Yes, David.
Yeah,
apologies, Commissioner.
Yeah,
yes,
no
go
problem.
ahead. I'm sorry.
Thanks very much for your question. First of all, based on the extensive engagement we've had with member states, I anticipate that there will be strong support throughout the European Union. We've had a number of discussions at council level, and of course we've engaged with the European Parliament Special Committee on Democracy as well. And my overall sense and assessment is that there is strong support for the proposals that we have brought forward. I think that's important to put on the record. We have had to respect the allocation of competences, and it is the case that the conduct of elections within member states is a competence of member states, and so the voluntary nature of this engagement is a reflection of the fact that there is that allocation of competences. But of course we have other tools as well. We have the whole of year rule of law process that is ongoing. We have a significant number of instruments within the rule of law toolbox. We have the potential to bring infringement proceedings as a Commission as well. And then the law of the European Union applies everywhere in the European Union. So whether it be the DSA and the obligations there in the context of upholding the integrity of the electoral processes, or the AI Act that we have spoken about and the obligations there in relation to deepfakes and so on, apply throughout the European Union. And we will ensure that they are implemented fully and faithfully. And also the mere setting up of this centre to coordinate, to pull together best practice, to exchange and share information, I think will actually help to lift all boats and make sure that this support is available right throughout the European Union.
Thank you. Yes, David, please.
Thank you very much, David Carretta, Radio Radicale, Italian Radio. I'm here. First question to Vice President Virkkunen, if I may. We have just heard Commissioner McGrath saying that the EU law should be applied, and you are responsible for the DSA. We have a proceeding going on against X platform since almost 2 years now. X, there are plenty of studies. X is promoting far-right accounts, far-right messages, sometimes also anti-democratic messages. The President of France has asked the European Commission to act and so on, not just on X, but also on other platforms. When you will apply the instrument that you have to protect, to shield European democracy? The second question is to Commissioner McGrath, if I may. I appreciated very much your words on the importance of journalists, independent journalism, and so on. A journalist who asked a question in this press room 10 days ago, or 2 weeks ago, was fired because of that question, which was on Israel, Russia. But my question to you, in fact, is, do you think that it's acceptable that a journalist to put a question in this press room, in the European Commission, is fired? And what does it tell of this, the status of freedom of press, especially in the country of these journalists? Thank you.
Yes, Executive Vice President.
Yes, thank you very much. DSA came into force 2 years ago for the very large online platforms, and 1.5 years ago for all the platforms. And after that, Commission has been enforcing these rules every day. And after that, we have, for example, we have sent 150 requests for information for online platforms to make sure that their practices are in line with our rules. And we have also opened investigations against 14 very large online platforms. And with many of the cases, we have published now preliminary findings for the online platforms, and there will be coming more now in the next weeks and months. And we are also able to conclude some of the investigations in the coming weeks and months. So the work is progressing all the time, but it's always important also that we are collecting enough evidence, and all the work is also based to our legislation. So it's clear rule in the European Union that everything what is illegal in our societies, it's also illegal online. So illegal content and illegal products, they have to be taken down. And the online platforms, they have to have practices how they are mitigating and assessing the systematic risks they are posing for our democracies, for our societies, and for people's well-being, for example. And also transparency of the actions, of course, it's one of the obligations, and because of that, online platforms, they have to carry out annually also an independent audit about their practices. So the work is all the time ongoing, every day. So, and it's not only about the investigations. We have investigations against 14 very large online platforms, but also we are all the time having different roundtables. We are sending requests for information. We are asking questions from them, how they are doing, what kind of practices they have in the place, and how they are complying with our rules in different areas.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you for your question. What I would say is that the freedom of the press is a fundamental pillar of our democracy within the European Union, that journalists should be allowed to do their job without any fear and to engage in the democratic process, holding us to account and others in position of authority to account at all times. At a policy level, we are very active in this space. Henna and I are very focused on the implementation of the European Media Freedom Act, which includes provisions around protecting editorial independence, in addition to ensuring there's adequate funding and appropriate funding streams for the continuation of public service media within the European Union. We also look at the issue of media freedom and plurality in the context of the Rule of Law report that we prepare every year, and we look at every member state, and we look at the moment 4 of the enlargement countries as well. And you'll be aware of President von der Leyen's announcement in the State of the Union about the establishment of a media resilience programme to bridge current support to the media with funding programmes proposed in the new MFF. And we've made a very ambitious proposal in the context of the MFF because we recognise the centrality of the role of the media in European democracy. And it's important for us as a Commission to reaffirm those points and to set out what we are doing collectively and also to underline the value that we place on the freedom of the press and the ability of individual journalists to go about their daily work without fear of any reprisal.
Thank you very much, Commissioner. And I move on again to my right. Yes, please. Yeah.
Hi, Camille Condessus from AFP. You just spoke about the Media Resilience Programme. I was wondering if you could be perhaps a bit more specific on the funding. How much exactly is going to be allocated and for what specific time frame? And I was wondering if you had also any example in your communication. You mentioned news deserts and stuff. I was wondering if you and your team have targeted specific places across Europe that are in need of funding, and what type. Have you already identified any outlets and stuff? Anything that could be more precise? Thanks.
We are currently now preparing the call for next year. So the criteria is now on progress, and we are working on that. But we see that it's very important that we are supporting our journalist work and our news media. Of course, these kind of programs, it's only a very small part when we look the whole financial framework where our media is working nowadays. So I see that it's even more important also to make sure that we are creating more level playing field for our media, because we know that our media is very much under financial pressure because of the digitalization and because of the online platforms, that the people are not buying so much newspapers, for example, anymore. And a big part of advertising is also in digital platforms. So we have to also look at how we can create more level playing field for our media. But at the same time, it's very important also that we are supporting our journalist work and free and independent media. And of course, member states are also playing a very important role here, and that's why we have Media Freedom Act now in place, and member states are currently now implementing it, and we are now encouraging all the member states to implement it very fast, because there we are also looking at the ownerships and the structures of media in different member states to make sure that we have free, independent and media all over in our member states. But I see very important to make sure that we have better market conditions for our news media, but also that we are able to support the quality journalism with our media resilience program, but also especially, of course, we are looking at the next MFF where we have bigger Agora EU program, and first time we are also now planning to also support news media via this program.
Good. Then We still have many questions, and we won't have enough time. So I take one question online, which we haven't done so far, and then still one question in the room, and we will then wrap up. So online, Tommaso Galavotti.
Yes, good afternoon. Many thanks for the floor. Tommaso Galavotti in Cross Italy. It's just about, the shield is aimed to the third countries, we've been told. But in the European Union, there are, as you know, some member states which are not, model democracies, like as Hungary, for example. Will the European Shield for Democracy be completely impotent towards these states, or will it be able to do at least something? Many thanks.
Yeah, please.
Yes, when we speak about our democracy and really cornerstones our democracy, I think it's always important to really underline the importance of education, literacy, media literacy, and also digital skills among our citizens. And of course, this is important that we are doing it in all our member states in the European Union, but also in our neighborhood countries, that we are supporting that kind of actions, because it's very important that our citizens, that they have the tools also themselves to analyze and critically also think the information they see. So I see that this is the most important cornerstone of our democracy, our citizens, that we are investing to our human resources and the skills and literacy and media and digital skills among our citizens. And it's, of course, covering all the European Union countries, but also our neighboring countries. And then the second pillar also about free and independent media. Of course, it's playing a very important role in all our member states, that we have to really support these actions, that our citizens, that they have access to accurate information. Nowadays, more and more citizens, they are just getting their information from online services, and it's not always media services. It can be some kind of social media platforms. There may be some kind of influencers who are telling different things. So it's not the quality news media we are speaking about. So that's why I think these are a very important part of that. But of course, in the same time, we have also our rule of law report, and there we are also focusing to different institutions, that we have also strong institutions in the member states. Everybody is respecting rule of law, and media has been also a very important part there.
If I can just add a quick word, because I think it is an important question, and we have to acknowledge that attempts at interference in elections in the European Union do not always originate from outside the European Union. They often do, but sometimes are perpetrated then by actors or agents or those who might be aligned to that source, so the origin of that interference, but they could well be situated within the European Union. So this is neutral as to the origin, but it's dealing with the substance of FIMI and of any attempt to interfere with the integrity of the democratic process within the European Union. So it's not exclusively focused on foreign interference. There can be interference involving actors within the European Union, even though it may not always have originated within the European Union. So we have to be blind in many ways to where it's coming from, but just deal with the issue so that we protect the integrity of elections within the European Union.
Thank you. And the last question, Jennifer.
Thank you for the floor. Jennifer Rankin from the Guardian newspaper with a question for the EVP Virkkunen. First of all, I wanted to return to the issue of X, as it is now nearly 2 years since this investigation was launched on information manipulation suspected. And can you give any further reassurance as to when you will conclude this investigation, given the stakes involved, given the time taken so far? And also, can you give reassurance that this is not being politicized in order to avoid causing offense to the Trump administration or being caught up in some other issue about trade? But a second question, and related, is the slow speed of these investigations not a big hole in the democracy shield? Is that not a problem if you do have a lot of disinformation on platforms and it takes years to get any conclusion? Thank you.
First question on the timing has already been addressed earlier on by the EVP. I don't know if you would like to still add any more elements.
Yes, I think it's, of course, very important to underline that we are fully committed and we are working all the time to enforce our Digital Services Act and Digital Markets Act. These are new pieces of legislation and we have to really collect all the evidence before we are making decisions. And I see also that it's taking time. But I think now we have also more resources on that, and I'm sure that in the coming weeks we will publish also several preliminary findings, and also we are able to conclude some of the investigations. But really I want to also underline that investigations, it's just one part of the enforcement actions we are having every day with the online platforms to make sure that they are complying with our rules. And this is, of course, a very important priority for us. Especially from our side, we have been focusing in this year with enforcement actions, especially to these democratic processes and to electoral processes, to make sure that online platforms are taking actions here, that they are not misused or manipulated there. And then protection of minors and also online marketplaces, they have been two other important priorities for us with the enforcement actions. And now we are also focusing more to financial scams, because we see that this is also now a very fast growing area. So all the time the work is ongoing, and I want to underline that we are fully committed to that and we are not slowing down anything. So we are speeding up.
Thank you very much. And with this we wrap up this press conference. Big thank you to your participation, to the participation of the Executive Vice President and Commissioner. And don't go away. We will resume shortly in 5 minutes with Executive Vice President Minzatu and Commissioner Mikalev on the communication on a culture compass for Europe. See you in 5 minutes.